You're welcome, our students, in a new episode of your program Madrasa على الهوا. I'm so proud to be with you today. I'm so happy to be with you as a teacher of science, because teacher, as Mr. Muhammad, my partner, always says, science is life. I believe in that. Science is life. I'm also proud to be a teacher for a student, Egyptian student, because I believe in your abilities and your ability to be creative. I'm also proud to be a colleague for Mr. Mahmoud, one of the best science teachers. Mr. Muhammad, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Wa'el Saad, as a new partner with me in this episode. And I hope my dear students can understand all the points in this lesson, as we started the last week or the last episode with talking about the motion in one direction, and we can complete today the rest of this lesson with Mr. Wa'el.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Last time you talked about motion in a straight line.
Yes.
You gave us definition for motion, for speed, for regular speed and irregular speed, and you can give us summary for what you taught last time. Okay.
Yes, okay. So, dear students, today we will complete our lesson with new items, as we have to know today what is meant by average speed and what is meant by the relative speed. What is meant by speed, as we studied before in the previous episode, we know speed is the distance covered through time unit, or distance covered in 1 second. So today we have to know what is meant by average speed. As we have here in the previous episode, we know how can we differentiate between regular speed and irregular speed. As we have here, زي ما احنا شايفين مع بعض, uniform and non-uniform speed. So here we have uniform speed, which means body covered equal distances at equal periods of time, or times interval. As here we have non-uniform speed, as we have to know distance covered unequal distances in equal periods of time, or vice versa, as body covered equal distances at unequal periods of time. And we have to know how can we mention the graphical representation of the two types of speed, as regular or uniform speed. As we have here, as you see, dear students, we have two axes, as we have here D and T axes. So here we have dt. At the same time, we should draw a straight line passes through the origin point, as you see in front of you. So why we represent this relation between distance and time in uniform speed by a straight line? Because in this relation the body covered equal distances at equal periods of time. But on the other side, as we see here, dear students, we have another relation, as we have the body covered equal distances at unequal periods of time, or vice versa. يعني أنا ممكن أقول له هنا هوت, or we can draw, as you see, we have T and D. At the same time, we can draw, as you see here, a not straight line. We can draw a curved line or zigzag line. Curved line يعني حاجة مش منتظمة أو مش straight line like that. Why? Because we can answer, as we studied before, according to the definition of non-uniform speed or irregular speed. طيب, before we going through the next point in this lesson, we have to draw another graph. عندنا في third graph هنا, المفروض ان احنا برضو ناخد فكرة عنه, as this graph. ناخده in other page, ممكن نعمله كده هنا. As you see, this graph, we have D and T. So here we have what? We can draw, as you see, a straight line parallel to the time axis, as you see. So this graph represents what? This graph represents body at rest. Body at rest. ليه؟ لأن الجسم هنا not in motion. Why? If we point as a, يعني حطينا points هنا on the graph, as we have time in second and distance in meter. For example, as 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and so on. 4 seconds. And here we have distance in meter as 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters. As we move through or on the straight line here, الخط اللي احنا شايفينه ده parallel to the time axis. So after 1 second, body at distance how many? 30 meters. After the second, the body at distance equal how many? 30 meters. After third second, the body at distance equal 30 meters. After the fourth second, body at distance equal 30 meters. So in this case, we can call or we can say in this situation, the body at rest, because distance doesn't change. المسافة ما اتغيرتش أو body doesn't change its position. Okay.
Now the question is why we put distance on y-axis and t in x-axis. I want you to understand, not just to keep the information. D is on y-axis always, t always in x-axis. The question is why? Because in x-axis always I put the independent factor, the independent physical quantity. Physical quantity means d, t, mass, acceleration, and so on. But always I put the factor, the physical quantity, that I can't change it. It's independent. Maybe it changes automatically on x-axis. But on y-axis, the physical quantity, that by changing the physical quantity on x, it changes. So I can't change time. Time, it changes itself. I can't control it, it changes. But I can control the change of distance. I can make it at rest, I can stop, I can move quickly, I can move slowly, I can cover more distance and I can cover less distance, so I can control the distance. Because distance is controlled, so distance is dependent factor, dependent physical quantity, so I have to put it on y-axis, just to understand.
Okay. So here, dear students, we know now how can we differentiate between the three graphs in this part of this lesson, as we have here uniform speed and we have non-uniform speed, and at the same time we have body at rest. So if we have to represent the physical relation between distance and time in each one of them, we can draw, you can draw by yourself in your copybook. So here we have another fact or another definition in our lesson today, as we talk about the average speed. So what is meant by average speed? As here we have to know average speed or any speed is distance covered through time unit, but at the same time here we talk about average speed. Average speed يعني السرعة المتوسطة. So average speed, which means what? Total distance covered over total time taken. يعني المسافة اللي أنا مشيتها كلها will divide over total time taken to cover this distance. التايم اللي أنا خلصته كله. So here, dear students, we know we can deal with distance and time. Here we have many distances and we have many times. So here we have total distance covered over total time taken. Let's go to explain how can we understand the average speed as you see in front of you. زي ما احنا هنشوف دلوقتي, we have average speed. Average speed, which means what? Total distance covered, as you see, distance covered over or divided by the total time taken to cover this distance. As we have here, dear students, we have total distance covered by over or divided by total time taken. يعني like the first definition, as we have speed, distance covered. As we have here, we have the mathematical relation. As the physical law, here we have average speed equal total distance covered over total time taken. So many students can consider this definition is very easy definition, and how can we understand this definition without any problem here. But we should remember, if we have to apply this definition through this problem, as you see, dear students, we have here a problem, a simple problem. عندنا مسألة صغيرة كده to know how can we deal with this mathematical law as total distance covered over or divided by total time taken. زي ما احنا شايفين قدامنا بيقول لي a body covers اهو 20 meters northwards. خلي بالنا, we know the graphical direction as we have north, south, east, west. Through 3 seconds, then covered 40 meters eastward with 2 seconds, then covered 20 meters southward with 4 seconds, then covered 10 meters eastward with 5 seconds. Calculate its average speed. How can we deal with this problem? In this problem we should draw it not a must, يعني مش لازم يعني, بس we should draw beside the problem to know how can we calculate the total distance covered and total time taken to cover this distance. How come? As draft here انا هرسم كده not by ruler ولا حاجه, بايدي. تمام. هقول له مثلا as you see here عندنا body covered how many, مشي قد ايه؟ 20 meters northward, 20 meters northward شمالا يعني طالع لفوق. In how many seconds? 3 seconds. يبقى هنا 3 seconds. Then covered how many? Eastward 40 meters eastward with 2 seconds. يبقى هنا 40 meters eastward with 2 seconds. Then covered 20 meters southward, as you see 20 meters southward يعني جنوبا with 4 seconds. Okay. Then covered how many? How many? 10 meters. رجع كده eastward, خلي بالك, westward غربا يعني رجع تاني 10 meters in 5 seconds. Okay. بيقول لي calculate the average speed. As we know, average speed is equal total distance covered over total time taken to cover this distance. طيب يبقى V dash as average speed. V only is speed. على فكرة ممكن نكتب S برضو speed. Okay. We have total distance. Total distance covered over total time taken to cover this distance. So here we have total distance covered. We have number 1, 20 meters plus 40 meters plus 20 meters plus 10 meters over how many time? Seconds. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. So we have 3 plus 2 plus 4 plus 5. So here we can calculate by using the calculator or by using your mind. يبقى هنا هقول له V dash equal, as you see, dear students, 20 plus 40 equals 60, plus 20 equal 80, plus 10 equal 90. 90 over 3 plus 2 equal 5, 5 plus 4 equal 9, 9 plus 4 equal 14. So we have 90 over 14, as you see, aho, 90 over 14 equal how many? Equal 6.4 approximately, as 6.4 watts. اسكت انا شويه اقول له لا 6.4 meter per second. So here we can calculate the average speed as we deal with average speed as what? As definition and as problem. Okay.
There is another definition for average speed. Why? Because we have two types of speed, Mr. Muhammad. Number one, regular speed, as you explained, and number two is irregular speed. If I talk about irregular speed, so I have many distances and many times. So the definition of average speed for, or in the case of irregular speed, it is total distance covered by moving object or divided the total time taken to move it. But if in the case of the regular speed, what can I say? If a light or anything, suppose that an object moves at distance 100 or 100 kilometer in 1 hour, and in the second hour 100 kilometer, and in the third hour 100 kilometer. So each time he moves distance 100 kilometer. He moved for 3 hours. Each hour 100 kilometer, in the second hour 100 kilometer, in the third hour 100 kilometer. And if I added the first one to second to third, 100 plus 100 plus 100, so the distance, total distance is 300. And total time, 1 hour plus 1 hour plus 1 hour, so total time is 3 hours. So average speed here equal total distance 300 kilometers divided total time 3 hours, so it is 100 kilometer per hour. In each hour he moved in this speed 100 kilometer per 1 hour. So here average speed equal regular speed. So another definition for average speed. Average speed, it is the regular speed in which the moving object covers equal distances in equal periods of time. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. So here, dear students, let's go to show a little video that explain the relation between the average speed as a mathematical law and our life, as we have, for example, car covered many distances through many periods of time. In this case, we try to calculate the average speed of this car by using the physical or the mathematical law, total distance covered over total time taken. Let's go to show this or watch this video. يلا نشوفه مع بعض. As we see here, dear students, this car move with, for example, instantaneous speed, as اللي هو السرعة اللي بدأت بيها. So here we have average speed equal total distance over total time. In this case, we have to calculate the speed or the distance of the distance covered by this car in مثلا the first hour. As we see here, 8 hours, this car covered 30 kilometers. Then after another hour covered 100 kilometers. So here we can calculate the average speed, because this car doesn't move with what? With uniform speed. So here we have 100 kilometer and we have 3 hours. So we have here to calculate what? We calculate average speed as 100 kilometer over 3 hours. So we can calculate the average speed as زي ما احنا نشوفها تاني كده, average speed equal total distance covered over total time taken equal how many? Equal 60 kilometers per hour. So, dear students, we know now how can we deal with average speed as a definition and as mathematical law. شوفنا مع بعض, dear students, هنا problems as we remember the mathematical law, as we have 3 facts: speed, distance, and time in the problems of speed, and also in the problems of average speed. But we have another type or another concept of speed here. We talk about the relative speed, as we have to know how can we recognize the speed of an object according to or relative to another object. يعني سرعتي بالنسبة لسرعتك. يعني the two objects, each one of them has its own speed. كل واحد فيهم له سرعته. طب maybe some students ask me about مثلا maybe we have body at rest. So this body has speed. Yes, in this case this body has speed, but this speed equal how many? Equal 0. So any object we can know how can we deal or how can recognize his speed from the previous mathematical laws. But now we have to calculate relative speed انا هحسب your speed relative to my speed، سرعتك بالنسبه لسرعتي. As I will calculate for example as a ratio in mathematical or in pure mathematics، زي ما خدنا بناخد في الالجبرا مثلا او في البيور ماثماتيك the ratio between two quantities، ما باخد الريشيو ما بين كميتين. تعالوا نشوف مع بعض ال average speed as we see here dear students، relative speed sorry. As we have here relative speed, we have two objects as you see, one as a police car and another civilian car. Okay, so this car has V and another car has another V. So here we can determine the relative speed as what? As speed of an object relative to another. This other or this another object is called observer. It's called what? It's called observer، يعني الملاحظ أو المتابع. يبقى we come as a comparison between two speeds. Here we have speed of an object relative to another object or relative to an observer. So we can know now مثلا for example we have many cases in this relative speed، بس لازم افهم في الاول ان انا بتكلم على speed of an object relative to another object or observer. يعني عندي definition سهل جدا، سرعة جسم بالنسبة لجسم تاني زي ما احنا هنشوفه اهو تحت اهو مكتوب اهو. The speed of the moving object relative to the observer. Maybe the other observer in the same direction، مثلا هو معايا في نفس الطريق. Maybe in the opposite direction، ممكن يكون في عكس اتجاهي. Okay، يبقى we have two main factors here or two main cases to deal with the relative speed. As we see here dear students, when the objects move in the same direction. As we have here, the first car moves with speed 30 meters per second and the second car moves with speed 40 meters per second. The two cars move what in the same direction. نخلي بالنا من دي لأن هنا we have two different laws، عندنا قانونين مختلفين تماما. So as we see here, how can we deal with the first case here? Relative speed of car what? Of car A to car what? To car B. واحد يقول لي طب what is the difference here? We have another case. The relative speed of car B to car A. We have a difference? Yes, we have a difference. ازاي؟ لما يقول لي سرعتي بالنسبة لسرعتك يبقى اللي انا هتكلم عليه في الاول هو اللي هحطه في الاول. بمعنى اصح we talk about car A to car B، يبقى VA minus VB. Why minus? Subtraction here. Subtraction. Why? As we see here, because they moves in the same direction. شايفين انا بتكلم على ايه؟ The same direction. يبقى VA minus VB. اوكي؟ طيب هعرف منين احط VA minus VB ولا VB minus VA؟ لما يقول لي me to observer، هنا car B is the observer، is the other object. So VA minus VB. So VA equal how many? 40 meters per second. VB equal how many? 30 meters per second. So we have 40 minus 30 equal how many? Equal 10 meters per second. So we know now the speed of car A relative to the car B is how many? Is the difference between them. Why? Because, or subtraction عشان ابقى more specific. ليه؟ Because they move why أو they move in the yes in the same direction، بيتحركوا في نفس الاتجاه. طب واحد يقول لي طيب انا عايز to calculate the relative speed of car B relative to car A. هو بيسألني على مين؟ Yes, car B. يبقى what will put at the first as a physical quantity. هحط مين الأول؟ أقول له تعالى معايا. يبقى أنا هنا I will put what V B minus VA. واحد يقول لي VB equal how many? Equal 30 meters per second. And V equal how many? Equal 40 meters per second. يعني less quantity minus more quantity. So we have negative here. Yes, we have negative. So in this case, 30 minus 40 equal 10 meters per second, but negative. Negative ليه؟ طبعا احنا عارفين الكلام ده from fourth primary، عارفينه من third primary كمان. ان انا عندي less quantity subtract more quantity we have negative time number as fifth primary خدناها برضو قبل كده. يبقى we know how can we differentiate between the two cases as the body or the two bodies move in the same direction.
So you mean that the relative speed depends on the position of the observer. If the observer is at rest, it means that the relative speed equal the true speed. If I am at rest and I see the train moves at 90 km per hour speed, so relative speed equal 90 km per hour. But if I move in the same direction and I move in a car and I move at speed 60 km per hour, that means I have to make subtraction between them. But if the two cars, if there are two cars and move each one in the opposite direction of the other, what can we say? Okay, before your answer في إيمان من دقلية. أهلا وسهلا. ألو.
ألو.
أيوة إيمان.
أنا عايزة أسأل حضرتك سؤال.
اتفضلي.
إزاي المسافة والزمن بيتحركوا بسرعة منتظمة وفي نفس الوقت خارج من المسافة خط لازم محور السينات.
أنا بس ممكن تعلي صوتك شوية يا إيمان؟
ما قدرتش أسمع يا إيمان كويس معلش.
إزاي المسافة والزمن بيتحركوا بسرعة منتظمة وفي نفس الوقت المسافة خارج منها خط يوازي محور السينات.
هي بتتكلم على البادي ات ريست.
يس.
طيب بص يا ايمان، هنا لما يبقى الجسم في وضع السكون ما بيتحركش، تمام؟ طب نفترض يا ايمان ان انت في الفصل بتاعك في الكلاس بتاعك، صح؟ سامعاني يا ايمان؟ تمام. الزمن الساعه بتاعتك التايم مش بيتحرك؟ طيب نفترض ان انت بتجري او بتلعبي مع اصحابك، مش التايم بيتحرك برضو؟ لو انا نايم مش التايم بيتحرك؟ يبقى الحاجه الوحيده اللي موفز فورورد اللي بتتحرك للامام هي التايم. ما اقدرش اعمل لها بوز اوقفها، او ما اقدرش اعمل لها باكورد، صح؟ سامعاني فهماني؟ تمام. انما الحاجه الثانيه اللي هي بتبقى على الاذر اكسس اللي هي دي اللي هو الديستانس اللي هو المسافه، هي دي اللي ممكن انا اتحكم فيها. انا دلوقتي بتحرك يا ايمان؟ انا بتحرك؟ ايمان ممكن تسمعيني بس من التليفون مش من التلفزيون؟
ماشي.
طيب انا دلوقتي بتحرك يا ايمان؟
لا.
طيب يبقى انا ما بتحركش، صح؟ طيب وفي نفس الوقت التايم بيتحرك ولا ما بيتحركش؟
بيتحرك.
طيب يبقى انا عشان كده وقفت الديستانس او التايم، الديستانس او المسافه هي ما زادتش. انما مين اللي بيتحرك؟
الزمن هو اللي بيتحرك.
الزمن هو اللي بيتحرك. عشان كده عملت ستريت لاين بارallel تو ذا تايم اكسس، او خط مستقيم موازي لمحور الوقت او الزمن. فهمتيها يا ايمان كده؟
ماشي.
وصلت يا ايمان ولا نقول بطريقه ثانيه؟
عندك سؤال تاني؟
لا شكرا.
عفوا يا ايمان.
Okay. What about if the two objects, the two cars move in the opposite direction?
تمام. Very easy to calculate or to know how can we deal with the relative speed if the two objects move in the opposite directions. لو الجسمين بيتحركوا في اتجاهين متضادين أو in the opposite directions, in this case we make the summation of the two speeds. بجمع السرعتين على بعض. لو نفتكر مع بعض, if the two cars move والعياذ بالله يعني two cars move in the opposite direction and one of them hit the other car. This accident here is horrible accident. بتبقى حادثة صعبة جدا لأن the two cars each one of them hit the other car with the total speed. خبطوا في بعض الاثنين بمجموع السرعة بتاعتهم. Okay? So average speed if the two cars move in the opposite direction as the summation أو مجموع السرعتين مع بعض.
Excuse me في خالد من القاهرة معانا. اتفضل يا خالد.
أهلا مساء الخير.
أهلا مساء النور.
أنا كان في سؤال بس عن average speed.
اتفضل.
بالنسبة كان في one problem بيقول لي the man covered
تمام
20 meter in 20 seconds running and go back walking the same direction 80 seconds calculate I get the speed running 20 over 200 over 2 seconds.
طب معلش خالد ممكن خالد معلش بس انا هسألك تاني. انت قلت البادي موفز running 20 meters in 2 seconds in 20 seconds صح؟
200 meter in 2 seconds 200 meter in 20 seconds.
حلو قوي. وبعدين return back in the opposite direction.
Yes.
In the opposite direction يعني the same distance 200 meters in how many? In 80 seconds.
Yes.
Okay. The question here is what?
The average speed 200 plus 200 over 220 plus 80 or ايه بقى؟
الافريج سبيد هتبقى total distance covered over total time taken. Total distance ايه؟ covered. التوتال distance هنا how many؟
هتبقى كده 40.
مش انت قلت ان هو مشي 200
ايوه
رجع 200
200 plus 200 over
يبقى 400.
Yes.
تمام over how many؟
over 20 plus 80
يعني equal؟
يبقى equal كده 400 over 100 seconds.
تمام.
هيبقى equal 4 meter per second.
4
كده
meter.
right?
Yes. صح.
Thanks, miss.
You are welcome خالد. You have another question?
No.
Okay خالد you are welcome. تمام. زي ما احنا شفنا كده مع بعض ان هو in this problem ان هو قال له ان البادي moves او covered 200 meters with 20 seconds then return back وما قالوش الديستانس بس قال له return back in the opposite direction cover the same distance يبقى هو راح 200 يبقى كده رجع لغايه rest point او the origin point لنقطه الاصل بتاعته يعني 200 forward then the 200 backward يبقى we have 400 meters over total time taken. طب التوتال تايم taken equal how many؟ equal زي ما احنا شايفين 20 seconds plus 80 seconds زي ما احنا شايفين هنا قدامنا عندنا 20 seconds plus 80 seconds طبعا يبقى 100 يبقى the average speed or v dash equal what? equal 4 meters per second. Okay dear students. So نرجع تاني للبوينتس بتاعتنا اللي احنا بنتكلم على الافريج سبيد if the two objects in the opposite direction very يعني easy to calculate the average speed in any case لو انا بتكلم على الافريج speed if the two objects we have another question another students or what
معلش معانا ولي امر اتفضل.
الو السلام عليكم حضرتك.
السلام ورحمه الله
اتفضل.
من فضل حضرتك في بس شكوى صغيره خالص.
اتفضل.
ممكن نخلي اي سؤال في اخر الحلقه لان فعلا جميع الطلبه بيشتكوا ان بيتقطع الشرح بيفصلوا الفهم خالص.
طيب هو الفكره بس هو اللي احنا ما بناخدش وقت كبير في الاجابه على السؤال هو جاست ان هو بيقول
ممكن نخليها في الاخر خالص عشان الشرح ما يتقطعش.
تمام.
بعد اذن حضرتك
هو بيبقى في خلال الشرح وفي جوه الشرح يعني هو الستودنت لما بيسالني على السؤال بيبقى في البوينت دي ومش عايز يعديها للبوينت اللي بعديها فبيبقى لسه كله مرتبط ببعضه.
حاجه صغيره الطالب اللي بيسمع ما بيتصلش ابدا اللي عايز يفهم ما بيتصلش بس استنى الاخر ويسال عشان الشرح لما بيتقطع ما بيقدرش ان هو يواصله.
هو انا ما اقدرش احكم على حد، كل واحد بيفهم بطريقته وما تقلقش. احنا لو حضرتك عندك طب سؤال في الحلقه، في حاجه عايز تسال عليها او حاجه؟
بص ابني مش قادر يستوعب لان كل شويه الدرس يتقطع، كل شويه الدرس يتقطع.
طب هو شادي فاهم لغايه دلوقتي؟
نعم
شادي فاهم لغايه دلوقتي؟
بقول يعني انا ابني السنه اللي فاتت كان بيشتغل على القناه بس بتاعتكم بس
تمام،
من غير درس وجايب 80% في الثانويه العامه، فدي حاجه كويسه.
تمام، ده
بس
شيء
نموها بقى يعني حافظوا على الطلبه دي عشان نتخلص
طب هو شادي فاهم لغايه دلوقتي؟
انا خدت وقت.
تمام، هو حضرتك شادي فاهم لغايه دلوقتي اللي احنا قلناه؟
معتصم هو ماشي، ما هو بيسجل وبيراجعه تاني يوم وكل
تمام.
حاجه، انما الشرح بيتقطع.
ان شاء الله يعني يبقى فاهم دايما طول السنه معانا ويستفيد مننا ان شاء الله بامر الله.
ارجو خلي الاسئله في الاخر بعد اذن حضرتك والنبي.
على قد ما نقدر ان شاء الله، بس
شكرا.
لو في اسئله كريتيكال لازم هنجاوبها في وقتها. شكرا حضرتك، شكرا. طيب احنا نكمل مع بعض. زي ما قلنا احنا وقفنا عند الافريج سبيد. الافريج سبيد زي ما احنا قلنا مع بعض ان هي احنا خلصناها، اللي هي توتال ديستانس كفرد اوفر توتال تايم تيكن، واتفقنا ازاي بنحسبها زي ما خالد مثلا سالنا من شويه، وحسبناها مع بعض وعرفنا ان ممكن ما يدينيش ديستانس باكورد، واحنا عرفناها لانه قال لي 200 meters forward then return back to its origin point or the starting point، فعرفت انه 200 forward ورجع تاني 200 باكورد، والتايم كده توتال تايم تيكن. طيب لو انا عندي بقى بتكلم على relative speed، قلنا if the two objects move in the same direction، يبقى بعمل مثلا يقول لي calculate، اهو بقولها اهو، calculate the speed of car A toward car B. car B يبقى car B ده الاوبزرفر، يبقى هحط مين الاول اللي هو بيسالني عليه؟ كار كذا، كار مثلا اوف ابراهيم، حسين، باسنت، لوجين، اي اسم. toward the other car اللي هي الاوبزرفر، يبقى الاوبزرفر بيتحط مين؟ the second quantity، وبعمل لهم subtraction، بطرحهم من بعض او ماينس. طيب لو two objects in the opposite direction سهله جدا، اجمعهم على بعض. واحد يقول لي تفرق؟ طبعا ما تفرقش. 1 plus 2 هي 2 plus 1، لما هتفرق لو كان the two objects in the opposite in the same direction. هنا لازم ابقى عارف مين اللي في الاول ومين الاوبزرفر. الاوبزرفر بيتحط the second quantity. طيب مثلا ممكن يقول لي problem calculate car A relative to observer or an observer stand on the road، يعني واحد واقف على الطريق ده كده احسبه in the opposite direction ولا in the same direction؟ واحد واقف وانا بتحرك اهو رايح ناحيته كده اهو، وهو واقف وانا بتحرك toward this object or toward this observer as a light post، اعتبره عمود نور. يبقى هنا in this case the object in the opposite direction، بعتبره in the opposite direction. طب its speed equal how many؟ هيقول لي equal 0 لان هو stand on the road. يبقى ساعتها لو انا my speed is 80 kilometers per hour and the other object its speed equal 0 per meter per hour او kilometer per hour، 80 minus 0 equal how many؟ equal 80. فهنا لما يقول لي object stand on the road، لما يقول لي او relative speed to an observer stand or at rest يعني واقف، بعتبره in the opposite direction وبعمل subtraction بس هو بزيرو، واي حاجه minus 0 equal the same quantity. اوكي مستر.
Okay, now just I wanna all my students to know how can use the physical equation as V equal D divided T, and you can help me, Mr. Muhammad, with your magic board
okay.
To understand this. How can I use this equation V equal D divided T to make graph? Number 2, to make definition. To make graph, as you told us last time, that I can put D on Y and T on X, and you can put it on the board.
تمام.
Number 2, to make definition. How can I make definition as a student? Yes, I can. Yes, you can. Because if V equal D divided T, always suppose that the denominator, the T equal 1. Always. If T equal 1, it means that V equal D. V equal D. So I can say that speed is distance. Why? Because V equal D divided T and T equal 1. So V equal D divided 1. So V equal D. So I can put this definition, I can set my definition, my own definition. So I can say speed is distance, speed equal distance. So I can say speed equal distance covered by moving object in 1 second. Okay. Now I think we are out of time. Thank you all our students for giving us your attention. I hope, Mr. Muhammad, also hope you to get benefit from this lesson. We did what we have to do, but I expect that you can do, and you have to do what you have to do at homes. Don't forget to keep in touch on Facebook in our group مدرسة على الهواء ابتدائي وإعدادي. We welcome your question and we will wait you for the next week. So I have to say goodbye. Thank you, Mr. Muhammad.
Thank you, Mr. Wائل.
Thank you, our students, and goodbye.